We did a lot of this album playing live in the studio, just everybody just played. So something happens to the air when you're all playing. It's not a question of a series of tracks and then overdubs and overdubs. And we did overdub to a certain extent, but a lot of the stuff, there are no overdubs at all, hardly at all. And it literally played as the owner actually played and sang in a booth, and so sometimes you get leakage of the guitar all over the vocal track, but it doesn't matter. I mean, it's not the way a lot of people would want to make a record, because they would say it compromises the quality, but I don't think it does.
We decided to get this underway again in December 1989. I think things had just naturally come full circle. There was it wasn't a big deal. We sat down in Tootsie's restaurant, plug, and just worked it out, really. And we had certain commitments at that point which we had to sort of finish up, which were primarily the Notting Hill Beliefs project and the Chet Atkins record that Mark did. And once those were out of the way, we did the Nebworth show on June the 30th, 1990, and on July the 1st and 2nd we had two band meetings which went on for 13 hours and 11 hours respectively, during which much white wine was drunk and roadies came and went on the list of roadies, and we just really worked out the structure of the whole thing from that point.
The band's pretty much the same, but I've added percussion and pedal steel. I've added Paul Franklin. It's been great. And Phil Palmer on guitar from Eric's band. And you see, well, he's been out with Eric. Phil's been playing for years. And, he's great. And Danny Cummins on percussion, and Chris Whitten on drums. And there's 9 pieces in the band now, because we've got Chris on sax, Chris White on sax, and Alan and Guy and John, and so I was counting them the other day when we were playing. There's 9, but it's a lot of noise. I couldn't tell you how long it took to write them all, because you start writing some songs years ago. I mean, I remember there's a song on there called Iron Hand, which is essentially about the what they call the Battle of Hungary. There was a coking plant in the miners' strike, and there was a hell of a riot went on there. And that was, I looked at the paper the other day, because there was going to be some kind of inquiry or not, as the case may be, about it, and it was 1983 or something. So I must have started to write it back then, or just after it happened. A couple of the lines that have started to go down then. So it's over a long period. The songs I've written the songs, and then, I've got a little home studio as well, and I just get the boys in there and start to map things out a bit. And you just work up to it. It's a bit like a painting. You just start with a little sketch, and then you do more sketches, then you do detailed paintings, and then you attempt the big picture. But things can happen when you're actually recording, and you can just change an arrangement entirely. I mean, there's a song called Fade to Black on there, where it was actually just originally I'd thought of it as being like almost like a Chuck Berry style of a groove. You know, it was going to go like this, it was going to go, you know, one of those kind of things. It was, I wonder where you are tonight, you know, over on the rampage somewhere. Whatever. And then I just changed it, and it just wasn't making me happy. So then it became like, well, I wonder where you are tonight, you know what I mean? The same lyric. So, and that was on the spur of the moment. It just wasn't making me happy. So just changed it. It became another thing there and then. And we just recorded it as played and just wrapped it up, and that was it. It's all there. On Every Street, I can't remember how it happened. I think it was, people always say what comes first, lyrics or music. I can't remember how it came about. Probably just the last two lines of every verse. And it's your face I'm looking for on every street. And then I sort of probably built it round that and started working backwards. The inspiration for calling Elvis was, in fact, my wife's brother saying he was trying to get in touch with her on the phone. He said, getting in touch with Lou is like it's like calling Elvis. Trying to get in touch with Elvis, I think was what he said. And that was actually gave me the initial idea. There's one on this album, I don't know whether you've probably got it in your notes, called Heavy Fuel, which was actually inspired more by a character I read about in a book, who's a thoroughly unsavory kind of a person. And it's sung in the first person. And he's a sort of an alcoholic, junk food eating, misogynistic, he says he loves girls, actually. He says he loves women. That's why he wrote the song. But I would think that it would be obvious, you would think it'd be obvious that it wasn't me, in the same way as Money for Nothing. You know, the character is not the singer. But it's a dicey area, in fact, because a lot of people still will. And the bug is not a very good idea, really. It's just sometimes you're the windshield, sometimes you're the bug. And like a lot of bad songs just say the same damn thing in every verse. It's what it is. Everybody knows that. You're not telling anybody anything new. So it's basically just like an infantile idea made into a song. Success and failure. But geez, I think that's what it's about. Yeah, that sort of thing. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I didn't actually put that in the song. Geez, I should have thought of that. More, if I was rigid about it and retentive about it, saying, well, that's a different kind of thing, but a different kind of thing. And the record's all got to hang together with its... But I'm not concerned about that. I think the best thing is slap it all in. Say, well, that is the mess that is this man's mind at the moment, that album.
Once we decided to do it, it was very much that everybody had to make a real commitment to do it, because it was likely to be pretty big in its dimensions, in the size of it, and it was likely to go on for quite a long time. And of course the other thing that was important was that Mark felt that he could get the thing musically going at the same sort of level as when we left off. You know, we had to be absolutely sure that it was going to work from a creative point of view. There's no point everybody do it. I mean, we never went into it from the perspective of going out and doing a greatest hits medley and making tons of money. It was very much, let's move.
We've got to go to a whole lot more places that we've never been before, because people have been complaining so much, and people get really bitter if you don't go. I mean, in the 12 years of touring, we never got to Portugal, for instance. For some reason, we just never did. On the last tour, I was really sick because we never got back to Ireland, and it was so great being there and playing. And so we will there. South America, we've never done, and we've got to get there. Chile and Argentina and Brazil, I really want to do that. So we're going to do that. Eastern Europe, well, we've only done Yugoslavia and Hungary so far, so we've got to, hopefully, Czechoslovakia to do, Poland to do, Romania, I don't know, or we'll just try and do what we can do. It's one of those things, the last two we could have just gone on playing round and round and round and round, could have been doing it now. But, so this time we are going to try and make a real effort to get to places that we didn't make last time. You get more songs up than you're playing in the set. That's what we'll be doing, is just to be able to change things around a lot from night to night, so that you don't get into that recital mode so much. That's the way to do it. And there's a lot of other things that you can do to break it up, and I think that we know enough now to not so that that won't happen. That's the obvious thing. It's the obvious question is, and it's this first question you ask yourselves. It's, how can you make it? You make yourself live with it better than you have before. But you do get used to it. It's a funny thing that it's, maybe actors do too, or good actors. They might find themselves in a dressing room on a rainy day somewhere in the middle of nowhere and wonder what the hell they're doing. But you can't wonder very long, because after all, that's, you chose to do it. You chose to be an actor. That's what you want. That's what you're good at. That's what your job is. And if I'm in a dressing room in somewhere horrible on a rainy day in the afternoon, and I think, what the hell am I doing here? And I could be somewhere a lot more sensible with some people that, you know, sometimes you say, well, maybe you should be somewhere else enjoying yourself. And how long would you want? That's what you do, though. It's what you do. It's what you are. It's what you do. And people like you, they put a lot, they've invested a lot in your being there. They're really pleased about the fact that you've shown up to play. It means a lot to them, and that means a lot to me. Already sort of mentally adjusted to that, if you know what I mean. I mean, the highs are really high when you're playing it, really high. And the lows can be pretty low, but the highs make it worth it.
Mark said to me, are you, i.e. me, are you going to try and set any records? And I said, no, I wasn't thinking of it. I said, because if you try and do it, it won't work. It'll come over as being contrived or whatever. As I said earlier, this thing just grew. It wasn't intended to be as long and as comprehensive, if you like, as it's turned out to be. And as far as it being the biggest of all time, I don't know whether that is in fact the case. What we're doing is we're playing, as far as I know, to more people than anybody's attempted to play to on one tour, which has a definable beginning, middle and end. I don't know whether individual shows will be bigger than anybody else's individual shows, and I certainly don't know whether or not the financial end of it will be quite as it's been expressed in some of the popular papers. I mean, some of the figures that have been bandied about are utterly ridiculous. One paper said that we were going to earn £1,750 million, and my only comment is that he must have been in a dark cupboard with a solar calculator.
It's fun to do it. It's what you do. I'm really looking forward to it. So is everybody else. The boys are all agog. Crikey. I think so anyway.